What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex Yu. You are watching the Marvel edition of the Ragin Nation show. This is just a web series where we talk about all things that matter to me in the world of Marvel films. This is episode number 9, and as always, there are tons of stuff to talk about in the Marvel universe. And let's just start off by talking about some stuff from 20th Century Fox's X-Men franchise. And Bryan Singer says that Days of Future Past will lay down some groundwork for X-Men Apocalypse, but it doesn't necessarily connect directly with Apocalypse. So Days of Future Past is its own movie, Apocalypse is its own movie. They aren't connected directly, as in Days of Future Past is Days of Future Past Part 1 and Apocalypse is Days of Future Past Part 2. It's not like that at all. These are two very separate standalone films. In fact, you can kind of think of it as an alternate universe according to Bryan Singer, but Days of Future Past does lay some groundwork for Apocalypse, meaning that what you see in Apocalypse, you will remember some things that happened because of the events of Days of Future Past. So that's going to be pretty interesting. Now, what's also very cool is that the main focus is going to be Professor X, Magneto, Mystique, and Beast, because they're all signed on right now, as of right now. But Bryan Singer also wants Gambit and Nightcrawler. I would love to see Gambit and Nightcrawler. These are two fan favorites, especially Nightcrawler. He was underused in X2, but he was still the best part about X2. Now, there's no word on whether or not Bryan Singer will be directing Apocalypse. That's still up in the air, but he's definitely serving as a producer. Alright, so that's why he's so vocal about it, because he has a lot to do with the story. Now, moving on, let's talk about Sony, and obviously there's been a lot of talk about Sinister Six. Well, Drew Goddard wants to spill some more details about Sinister Six. And, well, first of all, he's writing and directing Sinister Six. But the big question is, how do you make a film which is centered completely on supervillains? Alright, he didn't mention whether or not Spidey is going to make an appearance. He's been very vague about that. He doesn't want to say no, he's not going to appear, because that might make the fans feel a little bit, you know, they're a bit, you know, they might not like that idea. Or he doesn't want to suggest that he's in it, because that will make fans feel like, well, it's just another Spidey movie with more villains. So he's not going to mention anything about that. He's keeping that quite vague. But the big question is, how do you make it work? Alright, well, let's look at it this way. He decided to think about it as, help the fans wrap their head around it by thinking about it as many movies that we've seen before, and that is crime dramas, crime thrillers. Let's say, for example, Heat, Goodfellas, movies about drug dealers. Alright, think of it that way, because, like, for example, in Goodfellas, the character of Henry Hill wasn't always a gangster. He started off as a good kid, but he wanted to become a gangster. Alright, all of these characters in Sinister Six have an origin story. They didn't all start out bad. According to what he says, the Sinister Six film will cover their origins and how they come together and how they have a common, I guess, common theme. And that is to want to live a life of crime. So let's not think of this film as a movie centered, as a super villain film. Let's not think of it that way. Think of it as a Sinister Six film, or rather a crime drama, where instead of bank robbers and gangsters and drug dealers, the movie is centered around the origins of how these supervillains came to be. So that is very interesting. I kind of like that approach. I'm thinking about that. This is going to change the way we feel about these movies, because we typically see these films as centered around like a high-flying, spectacular superhero. Well, it's going to not be like that from this point on. So, very cool that they're deciding to do this. Now, let's talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right after I take a sip of this. What I want to talk about is the villains in the Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, the title clearly suggests that Ultron is the main villain, alright? And also, there's going to be Baron von Strucker. All right, he's also one of the villains in the movie, but he's definitely not the main villain. The main villain is Ultron. But where does that leave Thanos? I mean, obviously Thanos was teased at the end of the Avengers. So where does that leave him? I mean, he could still appear in Avengers Age of Ultron, maybe in the end credit scene, or maybe he's going to be appearing somewhere later on throughout the movie. But it doesn't suggest that he's the main villain. All right, the ending of the mid-credit scene in Avengers suggested that he was going to appear as the main villain for the Avengers to defeat in Avengers 2. Looks like that's not happening. So when is he really going to appear? Well, according to director James Gunn, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, it looks like that the first appearance of Thanos is going to be in Guardians of the Galaxy. And he's going to have a decent amount of screen time. Not going to say that he's going to have a substantial amount of screen time, but at least his presence will be felt in Guardians of the Galaxy. But what he also mentioned is that it's Guardians of the Galaxy is directly connected with Avengers 3. Now that is really cool because it suggests that Thanos will be the main villain in the Avengers 3. And I love how these films are so connected. I mean, it's like that Kevin Feige, the super producer of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, laid out the entire story for all these films, like a brief synopsis of each story, of each character, of each film, and how they're going to be all connected. And I love the fact that they planned it all out because, just like James Gunn said, Guardians of the Galaxy will be directly connected with the Avengers 3, and Thanos will be appearing in both films. So, very awesome! What the hell is that? I'm really thirsty, I talk a lot. Now, another thing that I gotta talk about is Robert Downey Jr. Now, Robert Downey Jr. already revealed that he's retiring from the Marvel Cinematic Universe after he's done with the Avengers 3. However, in a survey that was conducted in a New York screening of Captain America, the Winter Soldier, the survey asked the viewers which Marvel film are they looking forward to next, and it had films like, or it had characters like Thor, the next Avengers movie, another Captain America movie, but it also mentioned Iron Man 4. A fourth installment of Iron Man. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, didn't Robert Downey Jr. mention that he was going to retire after Avengers 3? Well, this survey conducted by Marvel suggests that there's going to be a fourth installment of the Iron Man films. Now, okay, we already know that Phase 2 consists of Iron Man 3, Thor the Dark World, Captain America the Winter Soldier, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Phase 3 will consist of Ant-Man, Captain America 3, and still unconfirmed is possibly Thor 3 and Doctor Strange. Now, these two are unconfirmed simply because Kevin Feige didn't confirm it, and second, they have no official release dates. Okay? So where does that leave Iron Man 4? I mean, there's not a whole lot of space for him if he were to be in Phase 3 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which suggests that Iron Man 4 is going to come in Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe after Avengers 3. Now, currently they have Avengers 3 slated for a 2019 release. Okay, that's 5 years from now, 2019, which suggests that Iron Man 4 can come in as early as 2019 after the Avengers 3 is released, or 2020. That's 5 or 6 years from now, we'll see an Iron Man 4 film. Now the big question is, will Robert Downey Jr. be back to play Tony Stark? Now I'll just let you guys know, or rather I'll just inform you guys and mention that a reboot is out of the question. They are not gonna reboot the character or the story of Iron Man just because Robert Downey Jr. wants to retire. They're not going to do that, okay? So let's leave the word reboot out of the equation and let's talk about sequel. And the big question is, Is Robert Downey Jr. coming back to play Tony Stark, or a new actor, a brand new actor is going to do it? Well, I personally feel that Robert Downey Jr. is not coming back simply because, well, he's played 3 Iron Man solo films. He will have appeared in 3 Avengers films. If they're going to have an Avengers film and an Iron Man 4 film come out in the same year or the following year, that means he has to play Tony Stark and wear the Iron Man suit consecutively. Alright? That's not a challenge for an actor. Robert Downey Jr. is an actor. Okay? He's not a superhero, even though I think he is, or believe he is. He's not. He's an actor, and there's plenty of other roles he would want to play. So the big question is, can you accept another actor playing Tony Stark? Obviously, if Robert Downey Jr. retires from the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, they will have to get a new actor to continue his role. Kevin Feige has the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe mapped out from Iron Man 1 all the way to who knows when, but it's one continuous story. It is just one long timeline of a story that doesn't get rebooted. It just keeps on going, alright? So there's no reboot, okay? This is going to be a sequel flat out, and Iron Man 4 most likely will be played by another actor. So let's just say that he's going to be played by another actor. No more Robert Downey Jr. Who would you like to play Tony Stark? And I want you to really think about this and leave it in the comments section below. Simply because that there's a 90% chance that Robert Downey Jr. isn't coming back. Alright? He's already stated this. I mean, you know, he could still play it. But do you think he's really going to play Tony Stark again right after he's finished filming the Avengers 3? So, I don't know. I don't think he's going to do it. But that means that we have to find another actor who's going to play Tony Stark, and another actor who's capable of playing Tony Stark. There's a lot of great actors out there, and there's a lot of actors who can pull it off, but they won't pull it off the same way that Robert Downey Jr. pulls it off, but they can still pull it off and add their own flavor to it. Alright? So there you have it. Let me know in the comment section below who you think can play a good Tony Stark and Iron Man. And there you have it. This is episode number 9. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more to talk about in episode 10. We're going to keep this web series going simply because the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as the Spider-Man universe, as well as the X-Men and Fantastic Four universe, is going to be what's dominating the cinema today. As always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Ragin Nation, follow me on Twitter at Ragin Nation. Also check out my photos on Instagram at The Ragin Nation. And I'll see you next time. Peace. Alright, so, man, you know what? Time Cop was never that great of a film to begin with, but I felt that, you know, the premise